Hello, my friends. Welcome to Sleep Flow Studio. Before we begin tonight's quiet journey, tell me gently in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it right now? Settle in, relax your shoulders, and allow the day to slowly fade away. The bell that rang only at dusk. In the far reaches of old Britain, beyond rolling hills and stone-walled fields, there stood a village so small that most maps forgot to name it. Its cottages were built of pale stone, their roofs bowed by age and rain. Narrow lanes curved gently between them, as if the village itself preferred slow wandering to straight lines. This village was called Belmere, not because it was loud, but because once each evening, just as the sun dipped behind the hills, a single bell would ring, only once, only at dusk, and never from the same place twice. Few questioned it, fewer still remembered when it began, but everyone in Belmere felt calmer after it rang. On this evening, as amber light stretched long shadows across the fields, a lone traveler approached the village road. His name was Edwin. He wore a dark wool cloak, patched at the elbows, and carried no weapon, only a leather satchel and a walking staff polished smooth by many miles. Edwin walked slowly, not from weariness, but because the land invited it. The grass moved in soft waves. A distant river reflected the sky like brushed silver, and somewhere far off, a blackbird sang, a low, gentle tune. As Edwin crested the final hill, the bell rang, a single clear tone, deep and warm, rolling through the air like a held breath. Finally released, Edwin stopped. The sound passed through him in a way he couldn't explain. Not loud, not startling, comforting. He closed his eyes briefly, then continued on. Belmere welcomed him, without words. A few lanterns flickered to life in cottage windows. Wood smoke curled upward lazily, and the scent of baking bread hung softly in the air. Edwin paused beside an old stone well at the village center. Its stones were smooth, worn by centuries of hands. A wooden bucket rested nearby, still damp. He touched the well's edge and felt warmth, as though the stone remembered every hand that had ever leaned there. A voice spoke gently behind him. "You heard it, didn't you?" Edwin turned. An elderly man stood nearby, wrapped in a brown cloak, his hair white as frost, his eyes clear and kind. "The bell," the man said softly. "It always knows when someone needs to hear it." Edwin nodded. "I don't know why," he replied, "but I feel like I've been walking toward that sound for a very long time." The old man smiled. "Then you're exactly where you're meant to be." The village grew quieter as night settled in. Stars emerged slowly, one by one, as though careful not to disturb the peace. The bell did not ring again, but its echo lingered in the stones, in the air, and now in Edwin's heart. And so began his quiet stay in Belmere, a place where time slowed, memories softened, and a single bell guided weary souls toward rest. Oh, the village that slept gently. The night in Belmere deepened slowly, like ink spreading through water, never rushed, never heavy. Edwin followed the old man along a narrow lane, lined with low stone walls and climbing ivy. The lantern the man carried cast a warm amber glow, revealing doorways smoothed by age and windows fogged softly from within. "You may call me Thomas," the old man said at last, his voice calm as a settled fire. "I've watched this village breathe for longer than I can count." Edwin inclined his head politely. "I'm grateful for the welcome," he replied. "I didn't plan to stop here, yet my feet did." Thomas chuckled quietly. "That happens often in Belmere." They stopped before a small guest house near the edge of the village. Its wooden sign creaked faintly, carved with a simple symbol, a bell framed by wheat. Inside, the air was warm and scented with herbs and old wood. A hearth glowed low and steady, not roaring, just enough to comfort. A woman emerged from behind the counter, her movements slow and practiced, as though haste had never been required here. "You heard it," she said gently, offering Edwin a small smile. "The bell always brings travelers in." She handed him a cup of warm milk sweetened with honey. Edwin accepted it gratefully, the warmth spreading through his hands and easing something deep in his chest. Upstairs, his room was simple: a narrow bed, a wooden chair, and a small window looking out over the fields. Edwin sat on the bed and listened. No shouting, no clatter, only distant crickets, the soft sigh of wind in grass, and somewhere, far away, the memory of the bell's tone, still humming in the night. Sleep came quickly. Oh, Edwin dreamed. He stood in a wide meadow, under a sky the color of pearl. In the center stood a bell tower, but no bell hung inside it. Instead, the tower itself seemed to breathe. With every exhale, the meadow shimmered gently. A voice, quiet, almost his own, whispered, "Not all bells are made of bronze." Edwin woke at dawn. Light spilled across the floor in pale gold bands. Outside, the village stirred softly, not with noise, but with motion. He dressed and stepped outside. Belmere in daylight felt smaller, yet somehow deeper, like a place that folded inward rather than outward. Villagers moved unhurriedly. A baker swept his doorstep. Children fed crumbs to birds. An old woman watered herbs. While humming a tune Edwin almost recognized, Thomas stood near the well again. "You slept well," he said, not as a question. Edwin nodded. "I dreamed of a tower without a bell." Thomas smiled knowingly. "Then the village has begun to speak with you." They walked together toward the fields. "You see," Thomas continued, "Belmere was built by people who listened more than they spoke. The bell is not an object. It is a moment. Edwin frowned gently, trying to understand. At dusk, Thomas said, when the day releases its grip, the village listens, and what is heard becomes the bell. They stopped at the edge of a meadow. The air felt thick with quiet. Edwin closed his eyes. For just a moment, he thought he heard it again, not ringing, but waiting. Oh, when you're ready, say, on the tower without a bell. The meadow lies open before Edwin, wide and untroubled, its tall grass bending lazily beneath the pale morning light. Thomas stands beside him, hands folded behind his back, his gaze fixed on the distant hills, as if listening for something only he can hear. Do you hear it? Thomas asks quietly. Edwin tilts his head, closing his eyes. At first, nothing. Then slowly, beneath the soft whisper of wind, beneath the chirring of insects, he senses a rhythm, not a sound, but a presence. I think so, Edwin says. It feels like the space just before a sound. Thomas nods. That is where the bell lives. They walk across the meadow, toward a low rise in the land. As they crest it, Edwin sees the tower from his dream. It stands alone, built of pale stone, weathered smooth by centuries. Its archway is open, and vines creep gently up its sides, as though time itself has chosen to rest there. No bell hangs inside. The tower casts no shadow, despite the sun. Edwin steps closer, his heart strangely calm. This was built first, Thomas explains, before the village, before the roads. People came here to listen, to grieve, to remember, to let go. Inside the tower, the air feels warm and still. Edwin places a hand against the stone wall. It hums faintly, like a held breath. What happens at dusk? Edwin asks. Thomas smiles. Whoever stands here rings the bell. Edwin turns surprised. But there is no bell. Exactly. They sit on the tower's low steps. Time stretches gently. The sun rises higher, then begins its slow descent. Neither speaks. The village bell does not ring, yet Edwin feels its approach, like a memory stirring. As dusk nears, the sky softens into lavender and gold. Thomas rises. It's time, he says. Edwin stands alone. In the tower, the air thickens. The world holds still. Edwin closes his eyes and listens, not with his ears, but with his breath, his heartbeat, his memories. He thinks of roads walked alone, of words never spoken, of rest long delayed. A warmth gathers in his chest. And then, without sound, the bell rings. The meadow exhales. Edwin opens his eyes. The tower glows faintly, and far away, lanterns flicker on. In Belmere, Edwin smiles softly. The bell had rung, and he had been the one who listened. Oh, resumre what the bell leaves behind. The glow around the tower fades slowly, like embers settling after a quiet fire. The meadow breathes again, grass swaying, crickets resuming their song, the world easing gently back into motion. Edwin remained still for a moment, his hands resting at his sides, his heart steady and warm. The bell's echo lingers within him, not as sound, but as a feeling of release, as if something unspoken has finally been allowed to rest. Thomas returns to the tower steps and sits beside him. You rang it, Thomas says softly, not with pride, not with ceremony, but with understanding. Edwin nods. I didn't know how, he admits. I only listened. Thomas smiles. That's always how it works. They walk back toward Belmere as the first stars appear overhead. The village seems unchanged, yet subtly different, as though it has exhaled something old and taken in something new. At the well, a woman draws water and hums quietly. Her tune feels lighter now, less burdened. A child laughs softly nearby, the sound drifting like a feather. Edwin notices these things. Without effort, they come to him naturally, like details emerging when one stops rushing. Over supper, Thomas speaks little. Words feel unnecessary. The fire crackles gently. Bread is broken slowly. Time stretches. Later that night, Edwin walks alone through the sleeping village. He passes cottages where candles flicker low, windows glowing with warmth. He feels no need to knock, no urge to search. At the edge of Belmere, he stops and looks back. The tower is barely visible now, its shape blending into the dark. He realizes something then. The bell did not call him here to stay. It called him here to remember how to leave. Edwin returns to his room, packs his satchel, and lies down once more. Sleep comes easily. He dreams of roads, but not lonely ones. They are quiet, open, patient. In the morning, the village greets him, as it did before, with gentle nods, soft smiles, and no questions. Thomas meets him by the well. Oh, you'll go on, he says. Yes, Edwin replies, but I'll carry Belmere with me. Thomas places a hand on Edwin's shoulder. Then the bell will always ring for you. Edwin steps onto the road as the sun rises behind him. That evening, somewhere far away, as another traveler walks with a heavy heart, a bell rings once at dusk. Oh, Lucio, the road that remembers. The road beyond Belmere curves softly through the countryside, never straight, never demanding haste. Edwin walks upon it as morning settles fully into the land. Dew clings to the grass like scattered pearls, and the sky stretches wide and pale, as though newly washed. Each step feels lighter than the last, not because his pack weighs less, but because something unseen no longer presses upon his shoulders. The road seems familiar to him, even though he has never walked it before. Its stones are worn smooth, shaped by countless journeys, arrivals and departures layered gently atop one another. Edwin pauses beside a low stone marker, half sunk into the earth, its carvings softened by time. He runs his fingers across it and feels a faint warmth. This road remembers. It remembers feet that dragged with sorrow and feet that danced with hope. It remembers soldiers returning home and farmers heading to market and wanderers like Edwin, walking not towards something, but away from a weight they no longer need. As the day warms, the countryside opens into rolling hills. Sheep graze quietly. A distant church spire catches the sunlight, though no bell rings there. Edwin smiles faintly. Not every place needs a bell. He stops near a stream, where water moves slowly over rounded stones. Kneeling, he dips his hands into the cool current. The water carries reflections, clouds drifting, light bending, and for a moment, he sees the tower again, not as it was, but as it felt, still, listening, patient. Edwin breathes deeply. He understands now that Belmere was not a destination. It was a lesson the land itself had been waiting to teach. He rises and continues on. As afternoon fades toward evening, the sky begins its familiar transformation. Gold to amber, amber to rose. Edwin slows his pace. Somewhere ahead, a village waits, or perhaps only a field, or a quiet place to rest. It doesn't matter, because wherever dusk finds him, he knows what to do. He will stop. He will listen. And when the world releases the day, the bell, unseen, unheard, will ring again. Only once, only at dusk, and Edwin will smile, and rest, and let sleep come, as gently as the road itself. Oh, Warsome, the quiet inn by the river. The road leads Edwin downward, from the open hills, into a narrow valley, where the air grows cooler, and the light softens early. A river winds through the land there, slow, deliberate, its surface broken only by the occasional turning leaf or drifting petal. By the riverbank stands an inn. It is not large, nor grand, but it feels settled, as though it has stood there long enough to stop counting years. A wooden sign hangs above the door, carved with a simple image, a cup resting beside flowing water. Edwin steps inside. Warmth meets him immediately, not just from the hearth, but from the quiet way the room exists. A few travelers sit scattered among the tables, speaking softly, their voices never overlapping. The innkeeper greets Edwin with a nod, as if recognizing him. Without knowing his name, room or rest, the man asks gently. Edwin considers for a moment. Both, he replies. He is given a seat near the fire and a bowl of thick stew. The spoon is heavy and worn, its handle smoothed by countless hands. Another object that remembers. Outside the river murmurs. Edwin eats slowly, each bite grounding him further into the moment. Across the room, an old woman hums quietly while mending a cloak. The tune rises and falls gently, never demanding attention. Edwin feels his eyelids grow heavy. Later, in his small upstairs room, he opens the window slightly. Cool air drifts in, carrying the scent of water and moss. He lies down. Sleep arrives like a familiar companion. Oh, Edwin dreams again. This time, he stands at the river's edge, watching ripples widen and fade. Each ripple carries a memory. Faces, places, roads. None linger long. A voice, soft as breath, whispers, rest is also a journey. When he wakes, moonlight spills across the floor. The river continues its steady song. Edwin does not rise. He allows himself to stay still, to float between waking and sleep, where thoughts loosen their hold and time stretches thin. Down below, the inn remains quiet. No bell rings here. None is needed. The river listens instead, and somewhere within Edwin, something settles fully at last. Oh, course, the river that carries dreams. Morning comes gently. To the valley, light slips through the window, in pale silver ribbons, touching the wooden floor without urgency. Edwin wakes slowly, as though the night is reluctant to let him go. For a long moment, he lies still, listening to the river below. It does not rush. It does not pause. It simply moves, carrying yesterday away, without asking questions. Edwin rises and dresses, then steps outside. Mist drapes itself over the river's surface, curling softly like breath in cold air. The world feels hushed, as if holding something fragile. He walks along the bank, his boots pressing gently into damp earth. At a bend in the river, he stops. Something in the water catches his eye. Not an object, but a feeling. The river seems deeper here, its surface darker, more reflective. Edwin kneels and places a hand into the water. It is cold, but not sharp. The moment his fingers touch, images rise and fade. Faces he once knew, roads long forgotten, even Belmere, soft and distant now. The river carries dreams. He realizes, not the kind that shout, but the ones that visit quietly and leave without insisting on being remembered. A small wooden boat drifts past, empty, its rope trailing in the current. Edwin watches it disappear around the bend. He does not feel the urge to follow. Some journeys are meant to continue without us. He returns to the inn, thanks the innkeeper, and steps back onto the road. The valley opens ahead, leading toward forests and distant hills. As Edwin walks, the river's sound fades, but its calm remains with him. By afternoon, clouds gather softly overhead, shading the land in cool gray. Edwin welcomes it. The road becomes narrower, more intimate, as though guiding him rather than leading. And then, as evening approaches, he feels it again, that familiar pause, that quiet space before something ends and something else begins. Edwin stops walking. He does not wait for a sound. He listens, and in the stillness of dusk, the bell rings, not in the air, but in his breath. Once, gently, enough. Oh, Truson, where the day finally rests. Edwin remains standing on the quiet road as dusk settles fully around him. The sky deepens into shades of blue and ash, and the first stars appear, not suddenly, but patiently, as if they have all the time in the world. The bell's echo fades, leaving behind a gentle stillness that feels complete. Edwin exhales slowly. There is no need to hurry now. He steps off the road, toward a small rise overlooking the land. From there, he can see fields darkening into rest, trees folding their shadows inward, and far away, a single cottage window glowing softly. He sits on the grass, drawing his cloak closer, and allows the earth to support him fully. The ground is cool, steady, unmoving. Crickets begin their quiet rhythm. An owl calls once in the distance, then falls silent again. Edwin closes his eyes. Images drift through his thoughts. The tower without a bell, the village of Belmere, the river that carried dreams, the road that remembered. None demand attention. They pass like clouds. For the first time in a long while, Edwin does not feel like a traveler. He feels like a man who has arrived, exactly where he is meant to be. Sleep approaches gently, not as something that overtakes him, but as something he welcomes. His breathing slows. His shoulders loosen. The world narrows to the simple rise and fall of breath and heartbeat. Above him, the stars hold their quiet watch. And somewhere, not far, not near, the bell waits. It will ring again when it is needed. But for now, there is nothing to listen for. Only rest, only calm, only sleep. Beside the long night of gentle stars. The night deepens around Edwin, but it never feels heavy. Darkness here is soft, woven from shadows that rest rather than hide. Edwin stirs slightly, not fully waking, not fully asleep. He drifts in that quiet place where thoughts lose their edges and memories become warm echoes. Above him, the stars seem closer now, as if the sky has leaned down to listen. Each star feels like a story, old, patient, never hurried to be told. A breeze moves across the hilltop, brushing the grass in slow waves. It carries the scent of earth, cool stone, and distant water. Edwin's dreams return, but gently. He walks again, not on a road, but across open land, without borders. There are no signs to follow, no destinations to reach, only direction. He passes others in his dream, figures wrapped in cloaks, faces calm, moving at their own pace. None speak. None need to. They understand something together. that rest is not the end of a journey, but part of its rhythm. Somewhere far away, a bell sounds, not loud, not clear, but felt. It moves through the dream like a ripple through water, touching each traveler without stopping any of them. Edwin smiles in his sleep. The night continues its slow turning. Clouds drift across the stars, then move on. Time loosens its grip. Even the land seems to sleep. Fields settling, trees standing quietly, stones holding their ancient silence. Edwin breathes deeply. There is nothing waiting for him in the morning, and that thought brings peace. Because when dawn comes, it will come on its own. And until then, the long night holds him safely, cradled beneath gentle stars, and the promise that all journeys may pause without being lost. And when morning comes quietly, morning does not arrive all at once. It seeps gently into the world, a thinning of shadows, a softening of edges, a pale silver light spreading slowly across the land. Edwin wakes with the dawn, not suddenly, not reluctantly. He opens his eyes and finds the sky above him, washed in early light, the stars fading one by one, their work complete. The hill beneath him is cool and firm, unchanged, faithful. For a while, Edwin does nothing at all. He listens. Birdsong rises cautiously, as if asking permission. The breeze moves once, then rests. The world feels new, not because it has changed, but because it has rested. Edwin sits up slowly and draws a long breath. There is no urgency in his chest now, no weight pressing him forward or pulling him back, only balance. He stands and looks out over the waking land. Fields stretch calmly toward the horizon. Smoke curls from distant chimneys. Somewhere, a door opens. A day begins. Edwin adjusts his cloak and steps back onto the road. It welcomes him without sound. As he walks, he understands something at last. The bell was never meant to be found or owned or followed. It was meant to be heard only when the world grows quiet enough to listen. And now, so is he. The road curves onward, patient and kind. Edwin walks it, not as someone searching, but as someone moving in rhythm with the land. Above him, the sky brightens fully. Behind him, nothing calls him back. And somewhere, at the gentle edge of morning, a bell that does not ring rests. Content to be known. Edwin continues forward, step by step, into a day that asks nothing more than his presence. And if tonight finds you listening to the hush of your own breath, to the quiet between thoughts, perhaps you will hear it too. Only once, only when you are ready. Sleep well, the journey can wait.